Hi there, welcome to Monetize Your Business podcast conversations in partnership with FNB. My name is Hetty the Entrepreneur and I am the host for this podcast conversation. But as always, I am not flying this plane on my own. I do have my co-pilot with me. Papa Biz, how are you today?
Papa Biz here. It's good to be here. And I'm looking forward to this conversation we're going to be having. I know this gentleman from a previous life as well. So it'll be good to share this connection with the audience.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to today's conversation as well. We have got Percy Singo, who is joining us. He's an entrepreneur, he's a property investor, and he's an author as well. So a lot of different themes to delve into. Percy, welcome to the conversation.
Yes. Oh, no, thank you so much. And
Welcome, man.
Yes, no, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm grateful to be here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Before we actually get into all the nitty-gritties, I got to know Percy actually through a podcast.
Yes.
Through the Property Magicians podcast, episode 98.
Yo, you even remember the episode number?
Yeah, no, listen. No, because I really loved that podcast because it went into different elements around property investing.
Yes.
And I love the language that people would use in their journeys. And I actually listened to every single episode in their podcast series about 2 times.
Yes.
So I was aware of you, from back then already. So it's actually good to be able to have you here.
No, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes.
Percy, before we get into the nitty-gritties and the meat of things, I always love to know a little bit more about people, where they came from, their upbringing, just to have that kind of early picture and context of who they are.
Yes.
So who is Percy Singo? Where did you grow up?
Oh, okay. I'm Percy Singo, originally from Venda. I grew up in Venda, and then my family, it's a very small family because it's just a single mother with 2 kids. So I grew up in that environment, and then she was working in a church environment where she was a cleaner in a church when I was growing up. So I spent a lot of time in church because she was taking me with to church most of the time. And then I think that played a very important role in my life in terms of the way I think, and then even just the attitude that I have towards life. It really played a good role in that. So I grew up there, and then I went to study civil engineering after that, and then I studied at VUT, where I did my diploma and BTech in VUT. And then when I had a BTech, I told the vets, I made more like a recommendation to vets to say, I have a BTech, I want to come and do masters because I have this number of experience. So I went and did my masters in vets, where I graduated masters in civil engineering. Okay. But I work as a civil engineer for municipality, and then on the side I do all the other things you mentioned.
Okay. Now, when you said that you grew up with 2, your other sibling, or are you older or the younger, boy, girl?
Yeah, I'm the younger one.
You are the younger one.
Yes.
Okay, so you got an older brother or sister?
Yes, I've got an older brother.
Okay.
Yes.
What's the age gap between you guys?
It's just 3 years. Yeah.
3 years.
Yeah.
So then it's like you guys actually grew up together. Then?
Yes, we actually grew up together.
How was that experience? For you growing up, with an older brother.
Yeah.
Being the baby of the family, receiving everything.
Were you spoiled, Percy? You can tell us.
Yeah, no, it was not like that actually.
I'm just teasing.
Yes, but it was a very good family. I grew up in a very good family, and then the exposure from childhood was a good exposure. And then I got to experience even a lot of leadership from different people coming to Venda who are leaders, like Miles Monroe. Miles Monroe will come to our church.
Really?
And then
He's a legend.
Yes, you hear such people talking. So I was raised in a very good environment in terms of the people I was listening to while growing up. Yeah.
And I guess, from what I've heard from you, it does make an impact when one is able to grow up, within the church.
Yes.
Because, there's a lot of areas for trouble for young boys to be able to get through. Did you find that, being rooted in the church like that, it had a good impact on you?
Yeah, it had a good impact because I always say in my life, I've never looked at myself as a child who was growing up as a poor child. Because I feel like the church had overshadowed that suffering in a way, because I didn't get to experience poverty in a way, because it's more like people in the church were giving in terms of coming to my family, and then they just come with clothes and say, we brought clothes to your family. So I didn't get to experience the suffering, which I advise a lot of people to say we must, if possible, we must always give, because there are always people around us who are suffering, and then we can be the one that overshadow that suffering, and then the person doesn't get to feel the extent of suffering. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
You talk about the influence of leadership in your life growing up. Did it help you to almost vision a future for yourself beyond what your eyes could see, especially when you have such leaders like Miles Monroe coming into your environment? I'm sure it planted a seed within you.
Yes, it does. And then that's one of the main thing in my life, because I'm that person who's like goal oriented.
Yeah.
I'm always having a goal in my mind to say next year I want to achieve this. And that also helps me in terms of discipline, because when you have a goal, it's like there's something you are working towards.
Yes.
So when I even receive money now, I'm thinking, or let me save some of the money so that I can be able to achieve that goal. So I'm that person who's always goal oriented. Yes.
I love that. What are some of the early messaging that you got from your mom? Because, I'm fascinated by mothers, especially single mothers.
Yes.
I'm fascinated by grandmothers
Yes.
because they are such pillars of strength in our lives, and
Yes.
they really, really kind of give us that foundational strength.
Yes.
Are there some nuggets that you got from your mom that have helped you in your life?
Yeah, I would say my mother was not that person who liked to give like a lot of advices and so on. I feel like she just put you in an environment where you'll get those advices. So she was not that person to say, don't do this, do this.
Yes.
She just put me in a good environment, and that environment was the one that helped to mold.
Nurtured you.
Yes.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So you were able to actually motivate to do your masters.
Yes.
That is bold.
Hey, but before we even get to this master, I want to understand, growing up, the way that you did, how did you end up selecting what you're going to study? Where did that idea come from? Was it was it other leaders within the church that had directed you or influenced you?
Yeah, I feel like I was one of those people who were confused. Like when I went to university, I was more like confused, because I did a lot of different courses, and then I will just do 5 months and stop, and do a year and stop. And then I saw somebody holding a project, a civil engineering project, where they were building units, like residential units. And then I remember I did the same project in grade 8 as a science expo. Yes. Then I was like, no, I like this course. Let me change from my operations management to civil engineering. And then it became like the best idea to change to civil, yeah.
It's quite interesting, because often I'll find that the path one ends up going in that direction. It's actually important to just go a little bit back to that younger version of yourself to see what sparked a bit of an interest, because otherwise then you get into these spaces and you just invested in the mundane. And it's soul destroying.
Yes. So it was important, because even now, civil engineering, I don't only use it at work. I'm also using it on the side, things that I'm doing, which is very important for me to have done civil engineering. Yeah.
How was that transition for you? Because I sometimes find that transitioning into university life can be difficult. You're coming from vendor, so your reality is within that context, and now you've been thrown into this big city. There's a lot of things, and there's a lot of activity and movement. How did you manage that transition?
Yeah, I feel like the background played a role, because the moment I arrived in university, I was more like that disciplined child who is just going there for studies. Even some of the places around Val, which are maybe for events or for entertainment, I didn't know them until I started working. Like during that time, I was more about just being at the university
You were
library,
focused.
and then SEOs, student Christian organizations. That's where I was spending most of my time. And then I wanted to make sure, because I had a bursary which they were paying my fees. So I didn't want to lose that bursary. So it was more like the background was helping me to stay focused during my university years.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I know people like these days, Hetty will talk about it in terms of where we met it at the University of Pretoria. And it's a similar story like, in terms of what you're talking about where, you've come from, I was raised in Kimberley.
Yes.
So now you get to these places, everybody's going out doing all of these things. Me, it was also financial.
Yes.
Like we couldn't, because this is my parents' money and my parents were teachers going into this, so we couldn't.
Yes.
I mean, the first time that I really went to times 4 there at the in Hatfield was once I was working.
Yes.
I mean, and the rest it's Oscar, it's the library. It's okay. You go to 1 or 2 things that's available, but the rest of the time you studying, trying to make sure you don't fail.
Yes.
No, absolutely. That's amazing. So just tell us a little bit about, so you motivated to get into the master's program, which I think is absolutely remarkable. And then how did your journey then continue from there?
Oh yes, my journey is usually started with finance. Like my journey, it's mainly just around finance.
Yes.
Because it started in 2010.
Okay.
When I received the first job. But because I already had the information around finance from church, I wanted to implement all those lessons that they taught us. So when I started working, I was one of those people who didn't really go and make a lot of financial mistakes. Then they tried to rectify things later on. For me, it was like from the first month, I just started saving from there until today. And I've been working for 14 years, but I don't remember even just 1 month where I didn't save. It's like it has become a lifestyle where I don't even plan to say I want to save. It's like it's what I do. I know if I receive money, there has to be a portion of that money that I save towards my life. And that has helped me in order to fund my own investment goal. To say, when I decided to say now I want to venture into property, I had finances in my pocket to start. It was more like I didn't really have to go out there to look for funding. I had capital to
yeah, because
to start,
I saw from, and I remember from your story about,
Yes.
and I thought this is quite different because you would go out into property, and especially in the beginning, you use your own finances.
Yes.
And for a lot of people, especially young people, I mean, nobody's saving when there's tequila available. And then, so I remember hearing about it, and I thought that's quite different. So you were saving straight off the bat.
Oh yes, because I remember in 2010, because it started in 2010, I was just earning 6,000. Then I decided to say I'm going to save 3,000 every month.
Really?
Wow.
Yes.
That's
Then
half.
Yes, that's.
Sure.
Although I never planned to say I want to save half of my salary. It has never been a plan. It's like it was just happening that way. Then I did that for a year. Then after a year, I had something like 36,000 on my first year of internship.
Amazing.
And then that's when I got a job in Pretoria where they were paying me 10,000. And then I saved 5,000 for a year. After a year, I had 60,000 plus the 36,000. So around 2013, on my third year of working, I went and bought my first car cash, which was 120,000.
What?
Then so it started from there. Then I started to save again and save again. 2015, I had 100,000. That's when I decided to say, no, now it's time for me to buy my own property, because I felt like renting was more like volunteering to pay somebody's debt. So I wanted the debt to be mine. If I'm dealing with the debt, at least let it be my own debt. And then that's when I bought my first house, which was 522,000. But then another company in Woodmead had called me for an interview to say, come for an interview. And then they were like, we're going to pay you more than what you are earning. And then they started paying me 32,000. And then I decided in 2015 to say, no, I'm going to pay off this house as soon as possible. And then, yes, that's when I started to save like 15,000 every month. I did that from 2015 to 2018. And then 2018, I had something like 520,000, which I went to Standard Bank and say, I'm here to pay off a bond. And then they told me that the bond is left with 512,000. And then that's when I settled the bond. And then from there, I continue saving. But now I was no more saving the 15,000. I was saving 20,000 because I was no more paying the 5,850
yes.
for the bond. And then I saved 20,000 until 2020. 2020, I had something like 460,000. And then that's when I decided to say, now let me start buying properties and building multi-lets. And then I started doing that. My first project was 804,000, which, but that didn't include buying the land. It was just by building of the units. And then I was able to do that cash, the first project.
Sure.
And then...
okay, so this,
yes.
wait. So how did you get the idea in your mind?
Yes.
Okay, cool, I'm working. Because for some people, they're working,
Yes.
let me go into a business, let me do clothing.
Yes.
Some people, they're working, let me go into a business, let me do consulting.
Yes.
Where did the idea come into your mind? Okay, I'm working, my
Yes.
entrepreneurship I'm going to do is, let me do some property.
Yes. I looked around for different investment. Most of the investment, I felt like the risk is very high. And then there are those investment where they're just like, put money here, you'll get this much, and then you end up losing the money. So I wanted something that I can trust. And then I felt like property for me was the best place to put my money because I kept on saving and then I was putting the money in the bank. And in the beginning, I used to celebrate a lot to get an interest because I will get interest. I remember the highest interest I've received was 5,000 per month,
Sure.
Wow.
which I was receiving from the savings.
And that's
But
they're just sending you the money.
Yes, they're
it's an
just-
extra 5,000. Considering your first salary and you think, how somebody's paying me this just because I'm keeping the money in your account.
Yes, but I decided to say, no, let me change my savings into a form of investment. That's when I chose property. And then I started building units. And then, yes.
Yeah, that's amazing, Percy. What are some of the savings tips that you can give?
Yes.
And what are some of the reasons or things that are holding people back from being able to save?
Yeah. I think what is holding people from saving, one of it is just pressures, because there's a lot of pressures which people have, maybe let me mention just three of them. One of them, I think it's just those people that you grow up with.
Yes.
And then you are looking at them and then you see this one has achieved this and that.
Yes.
And then you seem like you are a bit behind.
Yes.
And then you want to show them that you are not really behind. And then that's when you have to go and buy liabilities because you don't buy assets to show somebody that you have made it in life.
True.
You have to be buying liabilities. It's things like cars, things like clothes. That's the things that people can see. Because people cannot see the properties that I have when I'm sitting here or when I go to events. And people cannot see the portfolio that I have in terms of shares when I go to events. So you have to buy those liabilities. I feel like that's the main thing that is making people not to be able to save. They are overcommitting on liabilities in such a way that you are not able to have time to invest in investments. And then again, there's pressures like to say, okay, my mother was working in a church for 15 years as a cleaner. And then now I'm a civil engineer. Let me show people that now I've made it.
Yes.
There's also that kind of a pressure. And there's also expectations from people to say, now since you are an engineer, we expect you to come here driving in a certain way. And then all those pressures, they make you not to be able to save. So if you can be able to avoid all the pressures, you'll be able to achieve your goal with ease. Yeah.
That actually reminds me, it's something that we used to be taught in university, actually, because we had a group of entrepreneurs, a network of entrepreneurs we used to go with, and one of their guys was a bit more senior.
Yes.
And he used to warn us to say that as you grow older,
Yes.
many of you here
Yes.
will be working and you'll be chasing status. And he said status is buying things with money you don't have to impress, buying things with money you don't have and to impress people you don't even like. And it was, you know, it used to be funny to us back in the day until as you grow older, you start to see, hey, you know, what I'm doing here, is it because of status? Or is that something that's really important for me and my family? And then it just makes you question, what are we actually doing? And how are we putting ourselves in a position to be able to move forward?
Yes. Yeah, no, you're right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to look a little bit in terms of, with you now buying your first property and beginning to venture out into that particular space, what is it about property investing that really piqued your interest and made you think, oh my gosh, I love this?
I think from young age, I just liked property from young age, and then it's the reason why I did civil engineering. So I didn't just want to practice it from my work perspective. I wanted to do it for myself, and then that's when I decided to venture into property. But there are many benefits of property that I've seen, because one is that the value of your money in property is growing quicker than just putting it in a bank.
True.
So that's one thing. And then the other thing is the issue of cash flow, that you've got tenants who are paying you money, which means you have that cash flow. So if you decide tomorrow to say, I want to go to a holiday, you have the money to do it. Not all your money are tied up in something. You can be able to do things with money. Yeah.
Even he's talking about a holiday. This guy, he's always posting. He's always poking people. I saw him the other day. He posted that he's bought, who's this guy? Chris Brown tickets. And he just took some money from one of his tenants to go pay for Chris Brown tickets. I saw that. So I know what you're talking about.
I love it. To use other people's money to enjoy. That's so great. What are the types of projects that you started out with when you started in property? Because I know that there are different strategies and different types of properties to invest in. How did you start out?
When I started, it was multi-lets, and then it was
what is a multi-let?
It's where you've got number of units in one place, but it was mostly in the townships. So I started mainly in the township, where you'll just go there and then you find you've got 8 bachelors in one structure, something like that. And then at that time, I was more about bachelors. I wanted to have as many bachelors as possible. And then I did that for some time. And then...
Were you not afraid that the tenants wouldn't pay?
No, not at all, because of the township I was choosing. I was not choosing like those deep townships. I was choosing those townships which are very close to the city. Township which are closer to Sandton, to Randburg, for example. Those are the townships I was dealing with, and then I realized I've never had a main issue of tenants not paying rent. It was good location in a way. So I was choosing a very good location. And then at the beginning, I was more about, I want to have as many township houses as possible.
Especially the bachelors.
But with time, I changed, and then I started buying some properties in the urban areas.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I have properties in the urban area and properties in the township. But what I've realized, I still make more money from the township properties at the moment.
And then some people, like when they look to go into property, like when I was speaking to guys in the urban areas, they're looking to buy in the urban areas. And then I'm looking at what they're doing and I'm thinking, but now you're spending money every month on this property because the rent doesn't cover the bond. And then sometimes they've got levies and so on. So then they say, they can only be able to afford maybe 3 properties because now it's going so much negative into their salary. How did you experience that as well? I mean,
there is something like that. I usually compare a unit. Let's say a unit where you buy an apartment. You buy a unit, and then I compare it to a township house. I feel like a unit. It's an issue of strategies now to say which strategy are you going to implement in this unit. Because if you are going for month-to-month rental with a apartment, you'll have that shortfall where you end up maybe you bought a property for 800,000. You are supposed to pay 8,000 on the bond, and then you have levies maybe 1.5, and then you also have rates 1.5, and then you end up at 11,000, and then you are not gonna get any tenant who's gonna pay you
rent for
the 11,000. Then you have that shortfall, and maybe in your mind you can have that issue of saying maybe in the next 3 years I will sell it, and then when I sell it I will get the profit. But you have to do your calculations to say this shortfall, whatever profit you're going to make minus this shortfall, is it worth me investing in this unit? And then again, with the township, I like that you've got this big yard, which you are able, it's flexible, you are able to build as much as you want, and then you can be able to increase the amount you are getting as compared to an apartment.
So give an example, like, so the first unit you spoke about is like 8 bachelors, something like that?
Something like 8 bachelors, and then you find, or maybe you are renting each something like 3.5.
That much?
Yes, then you find making maybe 27,000 from one stand, and then something like that, which I feel like with the apartment, you have to be doing maybe...
You're not going to get 27,000 for that apartment.
Yeah, unless that apartment is in a place where there is something strange, like there's a lagoon, for example, and then you want to do Airbnb in that place. That's when you can be able to win with an apartment. So it depends on the strategy. Yeah.
I'm looking at that because you said that you spent about 800 on that first multi-let, which is 8 bachelors.
Yes.
And then I'm comparing that to an apartment for 800,000.
Yes.
I mean, that apartment or townhouse for 800,000. I mean, you're lucky to get a rental of 7, maybe 8,000 rand.
I'm thinking around 6,000. That's
6,000,
what
yes.
you'll get.
And then you compare that to you're going to build something in the township, and then you're getting a rental income of 27,000. I mean, that's unbelievable.
Yes. Yeah.
It's actually amazing. You know, there's so many opportunities in the township, especially in terms of property, that I feel like we're sleeping on.
Oh, yes.
A lot of people don't realize. They think that they have to go to the urban areas. They think they have to have a lot of money to start off with. But sometimes you just start with your own backyard.
Yes.
And then you kind of grow from there, build your confidence, expand from there, etc. If somebody is interested in starting a property portfolio in the township, or just exploring what options are available, what should their first steps be?
I would say the first step will be just to invest on getting the knowledge. Okay. Yeah, just listening to podcasts like this one where we're talking about property, because even in property you can still make a lot of mistakes.
Yes.
So you have to be knowing what you are doing, because one person can use 1 million to build 10 units in one location, and then you go and use the same 1 million in another location to do the same 10 units, but you won't get the same amount in terms of rental. And then even the demand won't be the same. So you have to be knowing some of the things before you invest. So I will say invest in getting information, and then I recommend studying in the township, because it's an easy to access that market as you are a new beginner, and then you will expand from there to urban areas, but it become easy to start in the townships.
Absolutely.
Sure, that's so interesting. And then for those where they may feel like, hey, if I go into the township, like what are some of the myths that you've encountered, as you speak to people, where they'd say or ask you different questions and you realize, but guys, that's not true.
I feel like the issue of security also plays a role. A lot of people are afraid of the security. Some will even say, if I'm a lady, can I manage a house in a township?
I've seen that type of question as well. Yes,
she'll be afraid to go there. So there is those issues around security. But again, you can still invest without you being actively participating in the management of that property. You can get people to assist you in managing it if you don't want to be involved.
And one of the things I just want to make sure that we cover this before we get towards the closing side is you're also an author.
Oh yes.
Yes. And I've seen your book touches on something that I find more people need to be focused on is how to use your salary to, improve financially, to create wealth.
Yes.
How did that come about, and how is that journey since you've written the book and people reading the book?
Yeah, no, the book is doing so well because, a lot of people have bought the book. I've sold more than 1,700 copies in a
very look at that
in a very short period of time. But I feel like the book was more about my life. It was talking about my life, to say I'm still working on a 9 to 5, but I'm also doing other things which are a form of stream of income. So one of the reasons why I wrote the book is because you'll find somebody having worked maybe 10 years, for example, and then there's nothing that they can show to say this is what I've been sacrificing for. Because going to work, it's a sacrifice, and then you go there, you meet a difficult manager, you deal with a difficult manager. It's a lot of sacrifices, and then at the end of 10 years, you have nothing to show for all those sacrifices. So it was to help people to be accountable with their money, to say you should be able to know where your money is going. I feel like when we were created to dominate. And it's even in the Bible, the first thing after we were created, it was to say you must dominate. And then I feel like to dominate, it means even to manage your money in a way that you are not surprised to say, where is my money after you have received the salary? You should be able to know where your money is going, and you should be the one to direct your money to say, my money must go there and my money must go there. So that's the reason I wrote a book. And then one of the things that I've seen in the workplaces is that salaries, they increase in a very small margin. You will find your salary the whole year just increasing by 1,500. So I was advising people to say, look at other ways of making money instead of just looking at your 9 to 5. In such a way that you don't have to wait for 1.5 of next year. You can do other things on the side that can generate maybe 20,000 in a year. 20,000 in a month from those things on the side. So I was just advising people to say, let's invest on other things and let have number of form of streams of income, so that we don't rely on just one stream of income.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you are very big on advising people, particularly on social media. You know, we're living in a digital age where we can all be connected through social media. We can share knowledge, we can share information. What inspired you to utilize your platforms to share knowledge, information, and educate others?
It started as my friends were watching me doing the things I'm doing. And then one of my friends was like, no, the things you are doing, they're very good. Because I had bought the car cash, and then I had paid up my house. And then he says, you must start sharing some of these things with people. And then that's when I went to Facebook. And then the good part is that I had screenshots of everything I was doing from 2010 to now. So I was sharing those screenshots of things I was doing, and then I was receiving a lot of people starting to follow me, and then a lot of people starting to invite me to their events. And then when we go to events, people will ask me, where can you get this information that you are talking about? And then I decided to write a book so that they can get that information from the book.
Sure. Wow, that's amazing, hey? Such a fantastic way to be able to share your knowledge and influence. As we begin to kind of wrap up this conversation, Percy, I think yours is quite an inspirational story. Just being able to share that knowledge and to just kind of decrease that knowledge gap that we have. I'm finding these days that education is just not in the classroom alone. It's actually that self-education. Who are you following? Who are you spending time with? What books are you reading? What podcasts are you listening to? That's what actually takes you to the next level. What are some of your parting words that you want to leave people with in terms of the Percy Singo kind of legacy that you want to impart to others?
Okay, I feel like I'm more about attitude, to say we must have the right attitude while we are going for what for our goals, while we are chasing our goals. Because most of the time I feel like people are the ones who are making it impossible for them to achieve certain goals. It's like you have a bad attitude in a way that you are not thinking innovative, you are not ambitious about life, and then you don't have goals. And then you'll find, where I come from in Shandima, there's a place where there are rocks. You'll find somebody who will just wake up in the morning, go and sit in those rocks the whole day, and then in the evening, you go home. And then it's like there's nothing they are looking forward to in life. So I feel like we must be those ambitious people who always have goals to say, I want to achieve this, I want to be the first person to do this. And then you start working towards that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love that. Papa, there have been some big nuggets and takeaways from today's conversation. What have you enjoyed the most from Percy?
You know, it's amazing, Percy. I just finished reading The Psychology of Money.
Yes.
And in your story, I just keep coming back in terms of the power of compounding.
Yes.
You know, it's the compound effect of the decisions that we make.
Yes.
And a lot of times, you know, we don't take cognizance of how impactful it can be.
Yes.
Everything that we do on a daily basis can have a compounding effect.
Yes.
And by you, with your upbringing, of course, other people had the same type of upbringing.
Yes.
Where it can be a disadvantage and used it as an advantage.
Yes.
And just that simple act of, you know, your first salary, finding a way to save that.
Yes.
And then you don't know what you're going to do it for, but you know, let me take this step.
Yes.
And then you continue month by month, and then you see how it's been able to grow.
Yes.
It's the power of the compound effect of that type of action and decisions.
Yes.
And that's something that's really resonated with me. And you know, one can start even today.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with starting today, and then you can see what that effect can be over time.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Percy, tell me, if somebody's looking to order your book, if they want to dig in, what do they need to do?
It's available in all my social media platforms, from LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. You just search Percy Singo, and then you'll be able to get the details from my pages. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
Yes.
Well, monetizers, that brings us to the end of yet another insightful conversation. We spoke today to Percy Singo, who originates from Venda, but it's really Venda to the world, where he has been able to really build a business legacy, a property portfolio, and shared with us also the value of saving. Who knew that you can do so much through saving? I'm really inspired by that, and I think that there are great lessons that we can take from that. We will also link Percy's social media handles in the description box so that you can go ahead and purchase a copy of his book, and also just tune in, plug into his community and the various knowledge and insights that he shares on a daily basis as well. So that brings us to the end of this conversation of Monetize Your Business podcast conversations in partnership with FNB. Until our next episode, bye-bye for now.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
So we've heard all about mentorship, but are you looking for a physical platform that you can plug into? Well, I've got good news for you. Monetize Your Business workshops in partnership with FNB have been designed exactly for you. If you are an entrepreneur based within the township, then we are coming to you. Monetize Your Business workshops are a fantastic platform where you can get access to masterclasses, fireside chats, networking, and you can also pitch your business for an amazing cash prize, a good boost into your business to help you grow and scale your business. You also have an opportunity to exhibit your products and services to a buying customer base and audience. So if this is something that you're interested in, hurry right now, run, don't walk to www.monetizeyourbusiness.co.za.